I, female, 28, was manipulated into missing my best friend's wedding because of my sister's emergency. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around the past few days. I've been best friends with Eleanor since we were 9 years old. We were both terrible at soccer and ended up always being the last two picked for teams in PE. We'd sit on the sidelines making up stories about our teacher, Mr. Benson's secret life as a spy. She was also the only person who really helped me through my parents' almost divorce when I was 20. They decided to work things out at the last minute, but it was still a mess. Anyway, Eleanor was getting married this weekend in Asheville, about 4 hours from where we live, and I was supposed to be her maid of honor. I had everything planned for months. I had to take off work Thursday and Friday. I'm a third-grade teacher and my principal is super strict about time off, but even she understood this was important. I'd spent over $1,300 on non-refundable stuff. Hotel, dress alterations, my portion of the bachelorette party, gift, etc. My parents are currently on their anniversary cruise. They've done this every year for the past 12 years, no matter what's happening in our lives. They left last Saturday and won't be back until next week. So here's what happened. On Tuesday night, I was supposed to drive to Asheville Thursday morning. My sister Jacqueline, female, 25, called me sobbing uncontrollably. I could barely understand what she was saying. She kept saying she couldn't breathe and was seeing spots and thought she might be dying. She said her boyfriend Curtis had broken up with her and she was having severe panic attacks. Okay, so quick background about my sister. She's always been the dramatic one in our family. She's had a lot of crises over the years that always seem to happen at really inconvenient times. Like she had a breakdown right before my college graduation, so my parents missed the ceremony, or when she suddenly needed emergency dental surgery the weekend I was moving and needed help. I don't keep score or anything. Okay, maybe a little, but there's definitely a pattern. And my parents always drop everything for her. Always. They've been doing it since we were kids. I'm the responsible one who can handle things, while Jacqueline needs extra support. Those are actual quotes from my mom, by the way. So I called my parents on their cruise, thinking they'd tell Jacqueline to handle it herself for once, or maybe fly home early. Nope. My dad was like, family has to come first, Robin. And my mom said something like, your sister needs you more than Eleanor does right now. It's Eleanor's wedding, but okay. I had to call Eleanor that night, and honestly, it was one of the worst conversations of my life. I told her I couldn't come to the wedding because of my sister's situation. She thought I was joking at first. When she realized I was serious, she was shocked and upset that I was missing her wedding for what she saw as another one of my sister's typical emergencies. I tried to explain how serious it seemed this time, but she was understandably upset. She said she needed to find another maid of honor within 24 hours and hung up. She didn't answer when I tried calling back, so I packed a bag and went to Jacqueline's apartment. She looked like a mess. Unwashed hair, puffy eyes, wearing the same pajamas for days probably. Her apartment was a disaster, and she has this French bulldog named Peanut who needs special food and medication. I've spent the last 3 days basically taking care of my sister and her dog while trying not to think about the fact that I'm missing my best friend's wedding. I'm checking Instagram every 5 minutes to see pictures. There was a photo of the rehearsal dinner last night, and Eleanor looked so beautiful, and I just locked myself in the bathroom and cried. Jacqueline keeps taking these really long bathroom breaks and checking her phone constantly. I thought it was anxiety at first, but now I'm starting to wonder if something else is going on. She keeps saying she needs to rest or do breathing exercises, but she's in her room for hours. I'm trying to be understanding because maybe she really is having a mental health crisis. But then I think about Eleanor and I get so angry. This always happens with my sister. Always. And somehow I'm the bad guy if I don't drop everything to help her. The thing that's bothering me most is that I'm not even sure Jacqueline is that upset about Curtis. Like occasionally she'll start crying and thank me for being here, but then she disappears into her room again. I don't know, something feels off. I'm sitting here right now on her couch while she's in her room resting, and Peanut is sleeping next to me, and I just feel so used. But then I feel guilty for feeling that way, because what if she really is struggling? Edit. Some people are asking why I didn't just take Jacqueline with me to the wedding. Trust me, I suggested that. She said she couldn't handle being around people, and that the 4-hour car ride would give her more panic attacks. I even offered to pay for her to stay in a separate hotel room in Asheville, so I could check on her between wedding events. She refused. A lot of you are asking if Jacqueline has a history of mental health issues. She's never been officially diagnosed with anything as far as I know, but she's always been very emotional and reactive. Our parents have always treated her like she's more fragile than me. She's threatened self-harm in the past during breakups, but has never actually done anything. And no, I don't think she's a danger to herself right now. Just very dramatic. Yes, I've tried contacting Eleanor today. She's not responding to my texts. Can't blame her, honestly. And to everyone saying I should have just gone to the wedding anyway, you don't understand the pressure my family puts on me. I've spent my entire life being told I need to take care of my sister. It's not that simple. Thanks for all the comments. I'm gonna try to get some sleep and we'll update if anything changes. I just watched Eleanor's father post a photo of them during the father-daughter dance, and I'm literally sick to my stomach knowing I should have been there. I feel like the worst friend in the world. Now for the first update. The wedding was this weekend, and I spent the entire time taking care of my sister and her stupid dog instead of being there for Eleanor. And let me tell you, taking care of Peanut was a whole thing I wasn't prepared for. I had to go to 3 different pet stores to find his specific hypoallergenic food because Jacqueline was like, he can only eat this one brand or he'll get sick. I spent like $80 on this fancy dog food, only to later find half a bag hidden in her kitchen cabinet behind some pasta boxes. Like, why make me run all over town when you had some the whole time? And the whole weekend, Jacqueline would come out of her room occasionally looking all puffy-eyed and thank me for being there for her. She'd be like, I don't know what I'd do without you, and then disappear back into her room for hours to rest or do breathing exercises or whatever. I mean, I get needing space when you're going through something, but it was weird how she'd pop out, act super upset for like 10 minutes, then vanish again. Meanwhile, I was getting texts from people at the wedding. My friend Tara sent me a video of Eleanor walking down the aisle, and I had to lock myself in the bathroom so Jacqueline wouldn't hear me crying. And then Saturday night, someone sent a picture of Eleanor dancing with her dad, and I don't even have words. That should have been me standing next to her, not her cousin, Melissa, who she barely even likes, but who had to step in as emergency maid of honor. I kept telling myself, this is what family does, and Jacqueline really needs me right now, but honestly, I was starting to get really irritated with the whole situation. Like I've given up everything for her, and she's just in her room most of the time, not even really talking to me. Anyway, Sunday morning, yesterday, Jacqueline was taking this super long shower, like almost an hour, and I was just scrolling through Instagram trying not to look at more wedding stuff when I saw this story posted by this guy Mike. I don't even really know Mike that well. I think he's friends with Curtis's roommate or something. But the story showed a bunch of people at what looked like a resort, and in the background, I swear I saw Jacqueline and Curtis holding up what looked like margaritas. I froze, like literally couldn't move for a minute. I immediately screenshotted it before the story disappeared and zoomed in, and it definitely looked like Jacqueline. So I started digging. I went to Mike's followers and saw he was friends with Curtis. I tried to look at Curtis's Instagram, but it's private, so I made a fake account. Yeah, I know, not my proudest moment, and followed this guy Tyler, who's friends with Curtis, but has a public account. And there it was. Tyler had posted like a dozen photos tagged Cancun with the crew, and in one of them, clear as day, was Jacqueline and Curtis kissing by a pool. I checked the dates, and they exactly matched the wedding weekend. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone. I went back and checked my texts from Jacqueline over the weekend. She'd been sending me stuff like, feeling a little better today, thanks for being here, and can you make sure Peanut takes his medicine at 6? This whole time she was in fucking Mexico. Sorry for the language, but I'm still so angry. I started looking around her apartment for more evidence. Her laptop was still open on the kitchen table, and I know this is probably wrong, but I looked at her email, and there it was. A confirmation for the Mexico trip dated 3 weeks ago. She planned this whole thing. There was even a food delivery scheduled to arrive that afternoon. She was planning to come back today all along. I'm not normally a vindictive person, and I don't believe in getting even with people. But in that moment, I was so calm, it was actually scary. Like, I wasn't even crying or screaming, I was just planning. I called the cruise line my parents are on and left an urgent family message for them to call me. When they called back, they sounded super worried. I was like, have you talked to Jacqueline recently? And my mom was all, no, we've been respecting her need for space during her episode. Then I asked if they knew she had plans to go to Mexico. My dad sounded genuinely confused and was like, "What are you talking about?" So I explained everything I'd found, the photos, the email confirmation, everything. My mom started defending Jacqueline at first, saying I must be mistaken. But when I described all the evidence in detail, my dad went completely silent. Then my mom started crying, saying she couldn't believe Jacqueline would do this. They both swore they had no idea about any of this beforehand. After that call, I knew what I had to do. I packed up all of Peanut's stuff, his bed, his toys, that stupidly expensive food, his medications, his favorite blanket, everything. I wrote a note that just said, "I know you're in Mexico. Peanut and I will be at my place. Don't contact me until you're ready to tell the truth." Then I took Peanut and went back to my apartment. I spent the rest of yesterday looking through all the wedding photos I missed and crying. Eleanor looked so beautiful, and I should have been there. I sent Eleanor a text last night saying I need to tell her something important about why I missed her wedding and asked if we could talk today. So now I'm waiting for Jacqueline to get back from Mexico today. And let me tell you, if she wants to see her precious dog again, she's going to have to meet some conditions. I've already made a list. I can't believe my own sister would do this to me, to Eleanor, to our whole family, for a trip to Mexico with a guy she was supposedly devastated about breaking up with. I can't even wrap my head around it. Edit. To answer everyone asking if my parents were in on it, no, they seemed genuinely shocked. My dad hardly ever gets angry, but he was furious when I told him. My mom was more in denial at first, but eventually she was just crying, saying she couldn't believe Jacqueline would lie about something this serious. Edit 2. Yes, I know some of you are saying I shouldn't have stolen Peanut. Look, I've been taking care of this dog all weekend, and technically Jacqueline abandoned him by going to Mexico, right? I'm not planning to keep him forever, probably, just until Jacqueline and I have a serious conversation about what happened. Edit 3. For those asking about Peanut's medications, he has some kind of skin condition that requires special meds twice a day. Don't worry, I have everything he needs and I'm following his schedule exactly. Edit 4. Several people have asked if I've thought about what I'll say to Eleanor. Honestly, I'm terrified to talk to her. She has every right to hate me forever. I'm planning to tell her the complete truth and beg for forgiveness, but I know that might not be enough. And yes, I have screenshots of everything to prove I'm not making this up. Now for the second update. It's been 3 days since my last post, and honestly, so much has happened, I don't even know where to start. So after I took Peanut, my sister's dog, I was like, wait, can I actually legally do this? I spent literally all Sunday night Googling pet ownership laws in my state instead of sleeping because my brain wouldn't shut off. Apparently, pets are considered property, which feels weird because Peanut is definitely a little person with opinions, and technically I could be accused of theft. But also, Jacqueline basically abandoned him to go to Mexico, so I felt like I had some moral high ground at least. I called in sick to work on Monday because I knew shit was about to hit the fan when Jacqueline got back. My principal was actually super understanding when I vaguely mentioned family emergency, which made me feel guilty for lying. But also this was a family emergency, just not in the way she probably thought. So many of you said I needed to call Eleanor as soon as possible, and you were right. I finally got up the courage to call her Monday morning. My hands were literally shaking so bad I could barely hit the call button. I was half expecting her to ignore me again, but she picked up on the second ring. I immediately started crying, like embarrassing, snotty crying, and told her everything. How Jacqueline had faked the whole breakdown, how she'd actually been in Mexico with Curtis the whole time, how I found the Instagram pics and the email confirmation showing she'd planned it weeks in advance. I apologized probably 500 times for missing her wedding and told her I would do anything to make it up to her. Eleanor was really quiet the whole time I was talking, which I thought meant she was still super mad at me. But then she told me she wasn't mad at me at all, but was furious with my sister and parents for putting me in this position. She said she'd suspected something wasn't right because this was such a Jacqueline move. She's known my family since we were 9, remember? I felt so relieved. She said she was still sad I wasn't there, but that she understood. She actually apologized to me for hanging up on me before the wedding and not answering my texts. I told her that was completely understandable and that I should have stood up to my family. We talked for almost an hour and she told me all about the wedding and honeymoon. They went to this cute B&B in the mountains. She said they're planning a small reception thing next month for people who couldn't make it to the wedding, and she still wants me to give a speech if I'm comfortable with that. Anyway, around noon, my phone basically exploded with notifications from Jacqueline, like dozens of increasingly frantic texts about where Peanut was. Where is my dog, and what did you do with Peanut, and I'm calling the police if you don't answer me, and mom and dad are furious with you, etc., etc. I was actually surprisingly calm. Like normally her hysterics would send me into panic mode trying to fix everything, but I just didn't care anymore. I sent her back a single text with the screenshot of her and Curtis kissing by the pool in Mexico and just wrote, "Let me know when you're ready to talk honestly." At the same time, my parents started calling nonstop. I sent them straight to voicemail and texted them the same screenshots with a message saying I needed space to process their role in enabling Jacqueline's behavior all these years. That probably sounds really harsh, but I was just done with all of them at that point. So about an hour later, there's this pounding on my apartment door, like someone trying to break it down. I look through the peephole, and there's Jacqueline, still obviously sunburned and literally still wearing flip-flops and a beach cover-up, looking livid. She kept yelling, "I know you're in there, open the door." My neighbor across the hall opened her door and was like, "Should I call security?" And I told her no, it's just my sister being dramatic. Story of my life, lol. I opened the door but kept the chain on and told Jacqueline I'd let her in if she agreed to talk calmly. She nodded, but her face was like, scary calm, if that makes sense. As soon as I let her in, she was like, "Where's my dog?" Not even hello or anything. Just scanning my apartment like a Terminator looking for Peanut. I pointed to his crate in the corner where he was napping. He was fine, obviously, but I wasn't about to just hand him over like nothing happened. She immediately rushed toward the crate, but I stepped in front of her and was like, "You don't get to pretend nothing happened." She switched to defense mode so fast. She started making excuses about having a breakdown, but Curtis surprising her with the trip to help her feel better and that she didn't know how to tell anyone. I just pulled out my phone and played the video I found of her doing some stupid TikTok dance by the pool in Mexico with the caption, "Best vacation ever." I was like, this kind of breakdown, and her face just dropped, like she suddenly realized how much evidence I had. She tried a different approach, saying Curtis had surprised her with the trip last minute and she didn't know how to tell everyone. I showed her the email confirmation she had booked 3 weeks earlier. Then she got mad that I'd gone through her emails. She started accusing me of invading her privacy and saying I had no right to look through her personal emails. And I just said, "You made me miss my best friend's wedding for a lie." She started crying then, of course, saying she's been under so much pressure lately and hasn't been thinking clearly and blah blah blah. I've heard this routine so many times before. I just stood there and said, "I have conditions before you get Peanut back." She looked shocked, like it hadn't occurred to her. I wouldn't just hand him over. I laid out my 4 non-negotiable conditions. 1, she had to make a sincere in-person apology to Eleanor and pay for a nice dinner for Eleanor and her new husband. 2, she had to reimburse me the entire $1,300 I lost on wedding expenses. 3, she had to go to at least 3 sessions with an actual therapist with proof. 4, she had to confess everything to our parents. The whole deception to that. She started arguing about how she couldn't afford all that, but then I just held up my phone with more Mexico pics and she shut up pretty quick. My parents showed up at my apartment like an hour later. Apparently Jacqueline called them right after our confrontation. They came in all ready to lecture me about stealing Peanut. Of course, they took her side again, until I showed them all the evidence I had. My dad started with the whole, "I think everyone made mistakes here and we should just move forward as a family" speech. I was like, I didn't make any mistakes here. I was manipulated by all of you. My mom tried to defend Jacqueline as usual. She's going through a difficult time right now, and I actually had prepared for this. I pulled out a folder where I'd printed evidence of like years of Jacqueline's manipulations and how they always seemed to happen when I had something important going on. I'd made a literal timeline. Several of you suggested documenting everything, so thank you for that idea. Then something unexpected happened. Jacqueline spoke up and said, "She's right. I lied to everyone." My dad looked shocked, like his mouth literally fell open. Jacqueline admitted she was jealous of all the attention I was getting for being Eleanor's maid of honor. She said she saw my parents taking my side for once. They were excited about the wedding too, and she just couldn't handle it. My mom started crying and apologizing for not seeing the pattern. My dad got really quiet, which is what he does when he's processing something difficult. I pointed out how much damage this has done to our relationship as sisters, how I can't trust her anymore, how their constant enabling has made things worse, not better. It was a long, exhausting conversation, but by the end, my parents actually committed to family counseling to address all these issues. My dad admitted they've probably enabled Jacqueline for years and that it wasn't fair to me. So over the next 3 weeks, Jacqueline actually fulfilled all my conditions. I was honestly shocked. She went with me to meet Eleanor for coffee and apologized in person. Eleanor was polite, but definitely cold, can't blame her. Jacqueline gave her a $200 gift certificate to this really nice restaurant for her and her husband. She paid me back the entire $1,300, plus a little extra for emotional damages. Her words, not mine. She went to not just 3, but 5 therapy sessions. The weird thing is, she actually seems to be getting something out of it. She told me her therapist thinks she has actual anxiety issues stemming from always feeling she couldn't measure up to me, which is crazy because my parents always favored her. But I guess that's something she needs to work through. And she confessed everything to our parents in excruciating detail. They're finally starting to recognize their role in creating this whole toxic dynamic. I gave Peanut back after all the conditions were met, but we've worked out this arrangement where I'm his official dog sitter when needed, with advance notice and proper compensation. No more last-minute emergencies. I've completely forgiven Jacqueline for everything. Well, mostly. I still feel a twinge of resentment when I look at Eleanor's wedding photos and see I'm not in any of them. That's something I'm still working through. Sometimes it takes something really dramatic to change unhealthy family patterns that have been going on for decades. My relationship with Jacqueline is still complicated, but it's more honest than before. I still sometimes wonder if my parents truly understand how much their favoritism affected me. Eleanor's husband still gives Jacqueline the cold shoulder whenever she's mentioned, and I've noticed I'm still way too accommodating in other relationships out of habit. The weird thing is, Jacqueline actually seems happier now that she's addressing her real issues instead of creating fake crises. We still occasionally slip back into our old patterns when we're stressed, but we're working on it. Peanut is doing great, by the way. I actually kind of miss his snoring. Edit. So many people are asking if I'm still friends with Eleanor. Yes! Our friendship is actually stronger now. She said this whole thing made her realize how much I've always put up with from my family, and she's been super supportive of me setting boundaries with them.